Welcome to the murk of the Nordic solstice night, as I have a couple of little reflections upon these sessions of early RuneQuest that we've been playing at Spelens Hus. Well, the first point is that I'm kind of crap as a rules GM of the game, which is too bad. I mean, I played a bunch of it, a year and a half ago, and then I played a bunch earlier this year at GothCon, and you'd think I'd be kind of good at it by now, but looking at this, which is a little more combat heavy than the prior games, I'm a little shocked actually at the badness. Badness number one is parrying. Really miss out on reminding people that they do have the option to parry and they don't have to give up any action in order to do it. And it's a good thing to do. I mean, you might bust their weapon, and if they hit, then you at least stop them, from hitting you. And as I say, no cost. I mean, you should be parrying a lot. And I keep forgetting to tell them that they can, and so similarly, and this kind of goes more for the foes than them, but for them too, is the defense rating, which is a small percent usually that you lop off the opponent's chance to hit. If you have a defense of 5%, then everybody trying to hit you loses 5%. First of all, this is really hard to remember in the middle of everything. And then second, it's real crap from the player's point of view when, they're rolling to hit and this is their chance to hit what it says on the sheet. And you just turn around and tell them, well, by the way, it's got a 15% defense. So, those are misses. And not only is it hard to remember, but I find that psychologically difficult. It's real different from, say, something that sets that before you roll as a default. I mean, it's always there. And so it's not really a special defense or in a case-by-case situation. It's everybody. So let's just take, old school champions where you've got your combat value and they've got their combat value. Say yours is 8 and theirs is 10. So, okay. I mean, that's a difference of 2 points. Take it from the baseline of 11. And so then that's 2 down from 11. So that's 9 or less to hit on 3d6. That happens all the time. It's not like you have a base chance to hit and then some characters knock you down a peg as sort of a special ability, which is more or less what it feels like in terms of this defense rule. So I keep forgetting. I even had, the little hungry ghoul dudes in the third session technically had a defense score, and I just, I completely just forgot about it or didn't apply it for a bit because people were hitting by enough. And then in later fighting, I looked at it and says, oh, well, that one might not have hit. And then I was thinking, well, that would be crap. I mean, that was a hot, dangerous fight and throwing that in there. So the trouble is that it's a feature in the game that, first of all, if you're small, you have a higher, you have a chance at a defense score, and that's actually a Benny of being small, and the Benny of being big is that you have you hit harder, and so it seems kind of a bummer to deprive the smaller characters of their benefit that they are supposed to have, just because I don't enjoy that particular application, the way that it's experienced. Okay, so that's a bit of crap in my GMing, and then there's a few others. To my credit, as soon as I set up the little ranking system for strike rank, the little rubric, then physical rubric, then it's fine. Don't know why I never liked strike rank in the past and have rather been enjoying it ever since. All you need is the physical thing. You need a strip of 1 to 12, and you need counters, or as I used it, arrows that I just kept scribbling in and then knew how to wrap it around. And I don't think we missed a beat. I think everybody got their turn at the right time, and it felt very natural. Hey, it's something else that I kind of appreciated in play. There may come a time when we don't, but what I rather liked were the fumbles. Good old fumble table from, early RuneQuest, the classic klutz table. Oh my God, I hit myself. Oh my God, I fell over my feet. Oh my God. I kind of liked it. In this case, the results actually made a fair amount of sense in the combat. I mean, the idea that you would lose, an attack as you move forward in a dark room, and you lose your next attack because you kind of stumble over something. Well, there was the, charred corpse of a ghoul right there. It makes perfectly reasonable to retroactively, fictionalize the fumble because you didn't just sort of stumble. I mean, it was there to be stumbled over, and, good enough. Kind of nice to have the dice show up in that fashion, and this desperate fight situation, it's kind of removes the mechanical quality of, well, it's my turn, I get to try to hit. Oh, it's my turn again, I get to try to hit again. Instead, it's like, no, wait, things happened, and you lose your balance, and you got to spin around, and where did he go? I lose a little bit, or in this case, could easily have seen dropped weapons and stuff like that, although that didn't occur. It kind of spices things up a little bit, and it happens to everybody. Comes some of the foes rolled a couple as well, and it all kind of worked. There was a period where instead of just trading hacks, everybody was kind of reorienting and worrying about what the next guy was going to get in while they were discombobulated, and I found it compelling rather than genuinely tense, not like, oh, well, I guess we got to wait, while you recover. I mean, stupid fumble table made us wait. It wasn't really like that at all. Kind of enjoyed that. A few other interesting things that you've probably noticed that doesn't have much to do with me, has a lot to do with the players. I guess it has a little bit to do with me in terms of the characteristically minimal, but I hope vivid approach toward description, which I found tends to encourage people to add, or toss a little bone about, well, you're given your character, it might be that you look at it this way kind of talk. Or things like, well, we haven't had a huge debriefing on setting and cults and stuff, so you need to know that, your cult priest would have given you, this spell. Stuff like that. You throw, material out like that in a particular way, and you find that players return it. They internalize it. They pick up on it. They do stuff and make stuff up. And, you've clearly seen that Helma is a total pro at this, but I hope you noticed in the third session that William was real good at rounding things out a little bit tactically. Wouldn't I be knowing stuff like this, but not, implausibly. Kind of an art form to be enriching things, and yeah, to your benefit, but okay, and not really to your benefit so much as just kind of picking up the groove of what's going on and saying, all right, we are going to make this fiction more plausible. We are going to make it richer. We are going to get a better idea of what I can roll for, which is important in this game. So it's coming along. I was actually feeling the setting kind of grow in front of me as Helma totally picked up on my little riff on what the shrines to the woodswoman were like, and she was all about what those shrines were like, and completely needed to get that out there for everybody to appreciate, and that just made perfectly good sense. The sort of engagement at that level from everybody. Then Nate and Sandra also picked that stuff up and went with it. Kind of a high point for play for me. So there have been several when Sandra, at the end of a particular sequence, just kind of nodded satisfaction and said, "Good gnome," and it just really was very strong, more than just two little kind of table talk syllables might have implied. She was a little concerned, how do I, do I get my gnome back? And the answer is yes. It's right there in the rules. After you've defined the elemental that you've summoned, even if you get the spell again, use up the spell and get it, from now on, unless that gnome is killed, that's the one you get. And she's like, oh, good. So she's kind of looking forward to getting that gnome back, which is nice. It leads me to want to characterize it a little bit. And, you can see how this sort of stuff builds we're all pretty familiar with that. This game does a nice job of that with the odd details. Just the fact that the primary metal is bronze. Now it's interesting in Glorantha. I remember kind of blinking at this when I was a kid reading this, because bronze is a technological metal, a very technological metal. You kind of have to really know what you're doing, and you make different kinds of bronze, to different sorts, and make it really different. You end up with brass. It's cool. And in Glorantha, it's mined, because it's the bones of the gods, at least according to some ways of looking at things. But the point is, you go and you mine bronze, which is just cuckoo. It changes everything about commerce if you don't have to transfer around different ore of tin, copper, zinc, stuff like that, and different combinations. And people are expert in assessing this and deciding what things this particular ore can be best used for, and and so forth and so on. It's a big deal in terms of whole world commerce. So anyway, I of course sort of value that, and I went with the idea that tin and copper do have to get moved around the world, and this particular region sort of reminded me of the British Isles situation with real hefty copper deposits, if I recall correctly. One of them anyway, one of those metals. But anyway, so it was a big deal when William brought that up and was like, well, wait a minute, what was it? Maybe William or Nate, can't remember, but one of them said, what's good around here? What's what do they do here in this area that anybody cares about? And I was like, well, that makes sense. So working with that interplay between us, it's not really tap dancing along in order to lead them to a particular place or a particular plot event or a particular question or information, so much as it is this constant, we are making this richer and we are making it make sense to us, and we're working with things that have been said. Some of it's from the admittedly quirky elements of the game system itself, quirky in a good way, the very idea of like, well, if I want a god like this, now what freaking runes would that be? Or even better, hey, I haven't used this rune for any of the gods yet, so in this setting, what kind of god would have that rune? Stuff like that. And so you have stuff from the material in the game, and then you have stuff like the implications of the map that I'm using. Anyway, it's all kind of coming together. I'm not seeking the kind of rip my guts out depth that I went for with the other system, the other setting that I've been using for this system. This is much more, well, let's just say it's got kind of a fantasy adventure pop vibe to it a little bit. And the point is that in play, we're making it its own worthy setting to do that in.